Game day tomorrow. Get hyped, people. Easily the biggest game of the year, I think, period. Up until this point, after this point, most difficult test Syracuse will see in the regular season 2022. Get excited. Owen, how excited are you?
I'm speechless.
Are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Matt Bonaparte, Owen Valentine with you on your Friday episode. Thanks for making Locked On Syracuse your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts. And today's sponsor is Underdog. Sign up on UnderdogFantasy.com with the promo code Locked On and get your first deposit doubled up to $100. Owen, we are talking Clemson today. Tomorrow is game day. And before we get into it, I just want to thank everybody for the support that we've been getting this week. This has been a really great week for the pod, and we've had a lot of fun. I'm glad everybody liked the Don Munson interview yesterday. He's the man.
Wasn't he great? Wasn't he great?
Maybe we get him on again. He's the GOAT.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk Clemson now. Last week for the NC State game, we pointed out players that we thought were important on the other side. We kind of felt like we did that already a couple times this week, so we're going back to our original formula and giving you something we want to see each of us and a question that each of us have going into this game. Owen, I want your statement first.
My statement for this game is that I need the big three of Syracuse's offense to go out and battle with this Clemson defense. That's Garrett Schrader.
No way
That's
you're
Sean
remembering
Tucker.
that. I didn't put that on the screen.
You don't have to call me out. I'm trying my best. That's Garrett Schrader. That's Sean Tucker. That is Rondé Gadsden. How can this trio perform against such an elite level defense? We have seen them come in and develop themselves as this offense. And Gadsden has come out as a tight end / receiver / whatever you want to call him and just be absolutely unbelievable this year. Schrader keeps finding him because he is open. I think Brett Axe called him Cooper Kupp equivalent, and that you know he is going to get open every time he gets down the field. How does that work? Can Gadsden continue that success and continue to maintain the numbers that he has been putting up and the efficiency in which he has been able to put up numbers this season? Can Schrader find him? Can he stay, composed in the pocket, make the good decisions? And can Sean Tucker have an explosive game on the ground? Because if he can compete on the ground and get those chunk yardage gains and get those first downs and get, early down yardage, then it's going to open up this offense a ton. And I think that Syracuse needs this big three to perform against Clemson in order to have success in Death Valley.
I'm going to get called out in the comments again, so I apologize for exposing you, but
that's
I just couldn't
okay.
contain myself.
We talked about it before we jumped on. I had to get called out when I did it in reality.
But you're right. You're absolutely right. The big three, they're going to have to perform if Syracuse is going to have any chance. For me, I'm going to flip to my question real quick that kind of plays in line with your statement is, can the O-line play well against its most difficult task yet? And that's the Clemson defensive front. I mean, the front seven for the Tigers is out of this world, and I'm sure we'll get some numbers from our numbers guy, Max Chadwick, in a little bit about that stuff. But Clemson's defense is insane, man. They have been churning out defensive products year after year, and this season is no different. They've got first-round talent on the defensive line, at least three guys with that much talent. We heard Don Munson tell us that yesterday, plenty. So this O-line has its work cut out for it. It's not exactly, I mean, they've seen some good fronts. I mean, NC State wasn't terrible, but, Purdue wasn't great, and Louisville wasn't anything too special. You're going from 0 to 60 in 0.2 seconds here with Clemson this week. So I think that this is going to be a really, really interesting thing to look at, because despite the Syracuse offensive line getting a lot of credit, it's also been, kind of shoddy at times. And Schrader's had to just flee the pocket immediately against some definitely lesser defensive fronts. So I'm a little bit worried about it. I won't lie. But the O-line's got to come out there and really impress me, because those are all, veteran guys on that line, maybe besides Kalon Ellis. But everybody else has seen time on the field. Plenty. Dakota Davis, Vettorello have been there for a long time. Bergeron's one of the captains on this team. And, of course, Chris Bleich, the transfer, has seen plenty of time on the field. So I'm worried about the O-line. I want to see what they can do. Owen, what's your question?
Definitely, just to echo that, worried about the O-line. And you left out the Virginia game where Syracuse lets up 6
Yes,
sacks.
the Virginia game. Thank you.
Which is Virginia's defense is nothing to call home about by any means. So this is a huge game for Syracuse's O-line to take that step. And this is a huge game for Syracuse in general. I apologize. Someone on Twitter, I forget your name as I'm speaking this right now, but you know who you are. I have said Death Valley a ton of times, and I can't get away
I
from
said
it.
it last week, too. I thought about
I
that
am
guy.
sorry. Memorial Stadium, we'll switch it up. How does Syracuse
Regular
handle
Valley, Alive Valley.
How does it handle its first true road test, though? That's my question here. Syracuse has played UConn on the road, and every other game they've played this season has been in the comfort of that toasty yet not toasty, because now it's air-conditioned dome. It is really – they have not had that road test. They've had the crowd on their side every single game, and I feel like even when they were at UConn, there were a good number of Syracuse supporters in that crowd there, and it really was something that didn't feel like a true road game by any means at the Rent and seeing that going on. There was a ton of orange in that crowd. So Syracuse hasn't really had that test. And I know I just said there's a ton of orange in that crowd. They're going to Clemson. There's going to be a ton of orange in that crowd. But it's going to be nasty orange. They're not going to be on your side. You are going to have to deal with cadences, with silent counts, with running an offense when those 85,000 fans are going absolutely nuts. It is homecoming week at Clemson. They are trying to break the record for the longest streak in ACC play as a home game, a home winning streak in Memorial Stadium. Okay, they are having so much momentum. This game means the world to them. They want to return to the college football playoff. There is so much on the line. That place is going to be loud. That place is going to be bumping like it is every game. This is what I think I saw. It's maybe the 4th or 5th time that 2 6-0 or better teams have ever met in the ACC in a regular season game. This game is gigantic, and the crowd is going to reflect that. And I do not know how Syracuse comes out and handles that loudness, that noise, that pressure on offense, and can they do it is going to be a telling task for if Syracuse can win this game or how close they can keep it in the route.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. Dino kind of talked about in his press conference, saying, there's been a road game, but it was UConn, and this is going to be the first time Syracuse really faces a real road test. And if you're undermining that, that's where you could get caught. So I'm glad Dino realizes that, because it's really true. And Clemson's fans, like Don told us, it's a tradition down there. And Owen, make sure you tell your parents they got to be on the road before 9 o'clock or they're screwed.
I know. I'm going to give a shout to Clemson before you continue. My parents just got the email with their tickets. The lots for this game open at 6 a.m.
Wow. That's nuts.
6 a.m. So you can get your full 6 hours of tailgating in and then go to watch a great football game.
That's nuts. All right. My statement that'll round us out for this block. The defense has got to play well without Garrett Williams. I'm not breaking any news here. I don't know if Garrett's going to play. We saw a tweet from Emily Liker that said Dino said that he might not play this Saturday, but he will return at some point this season. That to me makes it sound like he's not going to play Saturday. So if he doesn't, the defense has got to play well. That's what I want to see this weekend, is the defense play well without him. Because if they don't, the game's over. And Deuce
Huge
is good
game for Jeremiah
young.
Williams. Huge Jeremiah Williams game. Wilson. Did I say Williams?
Yes,
I'm looking at Garrett Williams. I'm reading your graphics, Bones. That's right. My issue.
Jeremiah Wilson, it could be a big day for him. I can't remember the other guy. I can't remember the other guy's name that's on the depth chart at corner, because I know that when Garrett went down, he was actually the one that got the bump. I'm going to look right now. But if Garrett isn't playing and Deuce can't really hold it down, I mean, they, like we talked about, the Clemson wide receiving core is there's a lot of guys who can catch the football.
Yeah.
So they have to be all over it. Isaiah Johnson, that's the other guy who's going to see some playing time. All right, let's take a quick break. Then we'll get to our chat with Chadwick. But before we do, let's talk to you about, hold on, before I do that, let me take this graphic off the screen. Bang. Okay. Underdog Fantasy. This episode is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy, the easiest place to spice up college football this season. You could take bets like quarterback higher than 240.5 passing yards, or receiving yards 67.5 over under, things like that. Easy to play and available in over 30 states. Just pick between 2 and 5 players across any team, not just your team, and decide if they finish higher or lower. One of the easiest fantasy play games out there, and you can win cold hard cash in a single game. Sign up with the promo code LOCKEDON, that's one word, and Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. Deposit $100, get $100 free. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com or find the Underdog Fantasy app in the App Store or Google Play Store. That's Underdog Fantasy. Promo code Locked On, one word, Locked On. Get in on the college football pick'em action today. Okie dokie, back here on Locked On Syracuse. I'm Matt Bonaparte with Owen Valentine, and now Max Chadwick is with us for our weekly chat with Chadwick. We're still working on an open for that, so we'll get there eventually. Max, how are you?
I'm great, guys. Like you guys mentioned, it's the biggest game of the year, so I'm pumped for Syracuse. A little bit nervous for Syracuse, but I'm very excited for what Saturday should bring.
I got to cut you off, Bones, before we start.
Go ahead.
So Max and I lived together for 3 years at school, and if for those of you who have very acute hearing, you might have just heard Max's alarm go off. No one sets more alarms than Max Chadwick. And I had to call him out for that.
My memory is the worst, dude. If I don't set alarms, you're lucky I made it on here without an alarm, honestly. Because I'm lucky I remember to do this, because if I don't set an alarm from it, it's not happening. Whatever I have to do.
I'm glad we made the alarm schedule, man. That's good for us.
Yeah.
All right, Max, give us some numbers on this game.
So, the first one, it's not really a PFF number. It's just the number 2. And that's the amount of undefeated teams left in the ACC. And both of them play each other this Saturday, in Clemson and Syracuse. So, it's not surprising that Clemson's here. They're number 4 in the country to start the year. But for us, for every Syracuse fan listening to this right now, very surprising that Syracuse is one of those 2 teams. Because, we came into this year, I'm sure you guys, when your preseason video said, I don't think this team's making a bowl game. 4-8, exactly. 4-8, 5-7 at best, I was saying. They're 6-0 right now. They're guaranteed a bowl game no matter what happens the rest of the season. First time in 35 years, they're 6-0. If they win another game, my next number is 1996, because if they beat Clemson somehow, that'll be the first time that they're in the top 10, I would imagine, since 1996. So very, very long time. Again, way before any of these current Syracuse players were even born, 2 years before I was born even, and I would be a 6th-year senior right now. So I'm pretty sure Syracuse doesn't have any 8th-year seniors on this team right now. Who was that one corner that was there for 7 years?
Antoine Cordy,
yes. Maybe Antoine Cordy's still there. So maybe he was born in 1996, probably 1976, actually. But yeah, it's going to be a really big game for Syracuse. It's going to be a huge game. And I think you guys nailed it when you were previewing this game. It's going to come down to the running game for Syracuse. They run the ball on 55.9% of their plays. It's the 14th highest rate in the Power 5. It's going to come down to whether or not Sean Tucker is pleased with his performance, and Garrett Schrader has to help out too. Tucker's got the 13th most rushing yards in the Power 5 at 646. Schrader has 26 rushing first downs this year, which is the 4th most among Power 5 quarterbacks. Clemson's run defense, though, you guys hit on it, is very difficult to run on. Their average depth of tackle is less than 4 yards downfield, 3.38 yards downfield. That's the 6th lowest in the Power 5. Wow. Their linebacker, Keith McGuire, 87.1 run defense grade, which is 6th for Power 5 linebackers this year. You mentioned that defensive line. It's nasty. It's a nasty defensive line. The 6th highest graded defensive line in the Power 5. The 3rd best pass rushing grade in the Power 5 too. So when Syracuse throws the ball, they're going to be under pressure a lot. And that's because you guys mentioned there are 2 probably top 10 picks in the NFL draft on that defensive line in Brian Bresee, who was the #1 recruit in the country, higher than even Bryce Young coming out of high school a couple years ago, and Miles Murphy as well, the edge defender. He's probably a top 10 prospect as well. So Brazil at D tackle, Miles Murphy at edge. It's going to be very difficult for Syracuse's offensive line to withhold any pressure from Clemson. And Garrett Schrader is going to have to play under pressure a lot in this game just because it is one of, if not the most talented defensive line in the country. Another guy, Isaiah Johnson, has actually played pretty well this year. You guys mentioned him with Garrett Williams being potentially out. 76.3 grade this year, which is pretty good. So Isaiah Johnson's probably going to be relied on a lot. Jeremiah Wilson as well. He's got a 67.8 grade this year as well. So it's going to be tough. Oronde Gadsden, our hero, the Heisman candidate himself. Owen says he's been open a lot, and Owen's right. He's been open on like 76% of his targets.
Wow.
I just found that out.
Insane.
When Owen said that, he's been open a lot, I'm like, oh, let me actually check that. Yeah, 76% of his targets.
Do you know what average is?
Less than that. I could tell you that. we unfortunately don't have that stat, but dude, Oronde Gadsden not only is being relied on a lot, but he is getting open at will. And yeah, you can call him a tight end. We classify him as a tight end because that's where he's played the most snaps. But he's basically like a bigger slot receiver.
He's a receiver. Yeah,
he's basically a bigger slot receiver for Syracuse. I'll call him a tight end only because that pushes his receiving numbers up the leaderboard more. So, his yards per route run, I think, is still highest for all tight ends in the country. He has been quietly, I put out my midseason All-American team, and unfortunately my editor who had to check it and edit it around, I put Gadsden on it. He took him off. I would have had Oronde Gadsden on the midseason All-American team because he has been one of the best tight ends in the country this year.
Look at that censorship, man. That's ridiculous.
I know.
They hate us in Syracuse.
Mikel Jones is on it, though. I got Mikel Jones on there. I made sure he was on there. I put him actually as a finalist for the Butkus Award, too, because I have my midseason awards. It's like, yeah, he's one of the 3 best linebackers in college football right now, I think.
He's fantastic.
Max, I called him earlier in the year. I called Mikel the Night King. And that he can just raise his hands and elevate everyone that surrounds him to play better football.
Yeah, that's very true.
We won't talk about how that episode ends, but at least
I'm watching for the Rising right now. We're actually on that the last good season we're on of Game of Thrones right now before the last 2. So I'm excited for that. But after that's me. I'm not looking forward to going through that again.
Enjoy it. Enjoy it while you can.
All right. Well, that's all I got. You got anything else, Owen? Or Max, do you have anything else?
Yeah, Max, is there something because Max and I took a road trip to Clemson in 2020 even. Mm-hmm. Is there something that stood out to you the most about that stadium?
It was like an open-ended one, wasn't it? Where yeah, that was cool. It didn't look as big as I thought it would, but it was loud. And I think it was so condensed that it got so loud, even though there weren't a lot of people there, because that was when Syracuse wasn't really that great. But it still was extremely loud, I think, because of the way it's built. So, yeah, it was an interesting stadium for sure. I had an awesome time being there. I love Trevor Lawrence, so seeing him in person was great too.
Well, Maximilian, we thank you, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you, guys.
All right, that was our chat with Chadwick. Now we move on to what a lot of people are probably waiting for. And I saw a great YouTube comment this week, and I'm going to try and find it right now. It had me giggling. I think it was on, I'm going to go look. I think it was on our Wednesday episode. Or maybe it was, the Wednesday episode. And someone was saying, we're not scared. Oh, here it is. From Todd and Oleg's love child. He says, we're not scared. Well, maybe Owen.
No.
And I thought that was hilarious.
Oh, are you
so
still
Owen,
mad? I'm sorry. I picked NC State to win.
Well, I want to see if you're scared. Give me a key. Give me a prediction right now.
Am I scared of Clemson? Yes, I'm scared of Clemson. How could you not be scared of Clemson? Look at the team that you're about to play. My key in this game is to not let the moment get to you and play your game of football. The game of football that we have seen Syracuse play a lot of different times throughout the season. Have there been glimpses of bad? Yes. But really, there is such an elevated brand of football that we're seeing out of Syracuse right now. And I want them to continue to play that game and not let this moment, not let the stakes, not let the environment that you're playing in, the fact that there are 2 zeros in the loss column at this game, the fact that you have 2 top 15 teams playing, don't let that get to you. Play the game of football that you have had success with this year, and that will put you in the best situation to put you in a winnable position. I don't know if they can win, but I do know that if you play your football, you are giving yourself the best chance to win, and you're going to play your football by not letting that moment and that hype and that excitement get to you. I'm not saying don't get hype. I don't think the Syracuse team needs me to tell them that they need to be hyped for this game, but do not overhype everything to the point where you lose what is your success and what you have been able to do throughout this entire season.
Yeah, I think that there's some definite merit to that. Although I don't think I'm that worried about them getting caught in the moment because I think they're actually excited for the moment. And this
Okay.
is a team, and Dino told us in the press conference, and we heard from Schrader that these are the guys that the reason that Syracuse plays Clemson close is because they want the big moment. They want everybody's eyes on them. They want to beat the big team. They don't care if you're screaming at them. Think about 2018, man. That was the same environment. And Syracuse should have won that game. They had the lead late in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Syracuse should have won that game in 2018. If it
2
wasn't
score lead
for
in the fourth.
Aaron Hackett being an illegal man downfield, that was a win. So I think that I'm really not worried about the atmosphere as much as I'm worried about the actual personnel differences that Clemson has. Because really, I mean, if you just talk about talent, there's no secret that Clemson stacks up a little bit better than Syracuse. And configuring the injuries in there, and that Syracuse has already lost Terry Lockett, Chris Elmore, Stephon Thompson, and potentially you lose Garrett Williams for this game. That's the kind of thing I'm worried about. Key for me in this game, though, is to do what's been working for you on the offensive end. So Oronde Gadsden's got to be a focal point. They know he's going to be a focal point, but just because they game plan for him doesn't mean you can't go to him. Find him. Figure out how to get the ball to Oronde Gadsden. Make Sean Tucker beat them. Don't let them. Okay, I've said this a couple times on the pod. Last year, Syracuse lost that game because they couldn't get any offense going. They had the luckiest touchdown to Trevor Pena I've ever seen, 60-something yards down the field, and it worked out. They got 2 touchdowns. But it was because they forced Schrader to throw, and Schrader wasn't really at a point where he could throw the ball all that well. Now he is. I'm not saying he's Dan Marino, but he is a better passer this season than he was last season. But that doesn't mean Sean Tucker should be out of the offense. I want to see Sean put up a 100-yard game with a touchdown. So do what's been working well for you on offense is my key to the game. Do you want to go prediction first? Do you want me to go first?
I can give a prediction first.
All right.
And I apologize for this in advance, and I'm not really sorry.
You can't apologize for your
but I
prediction.
do apologize in advance because I'm about to do something that might anger some people in this situation.
Oh, no. Who do you think you are? Oh.
This is going to be a Clemson win. And that's not a bold take. But my bold take, I'm taking this off. I'm throwing it across the way. I'm going to take a step off the screen. I am going to grab.
He's off the screen.
This because good teams win, great teams cover. I do have Syracuse covering in this game. 31-27 is my prediction for this game. I think Syracuse can do enough offensively. I am just not entirely sure they can hold Clemson in check enough. 31-27, my final prediction. I give this one to Clemson. For those of you betting, that is the over by a decent margin, and also a Syracuse cover by a decent margin as well. So 31-27, give the nod to Clemson. But I do think this is going to be a competitive game.
Of course it's going to be a competitive game, or at least I really, really hope so. I'm going to ride the magic, man. I can't give up the opportunity to ride the magic.
I knew you were. And here's the thing. I had to take one for the team
No, you didn't. You
we're
could have
not a
read the Magic
legitimate
with me.
podcast if
There's a
we both
seat
say
right
that.
in beside me to ride the Magic with me, and you decided not to. You threw that away. You put on that gross hat, and you decided to go with Clemson. Okay, I'm riding the Magic, and I am taking Syracuse in this game to win. I'm going to go another close game. It's going to be 24-21 in favor of Syracuse.
I do like that score number. I will give you that. 24-21 sounds right.
Well, I don't really think Syracuse is putting more points on this defense than they did on the NC State defense. But I also think that the SU defense is still really, really good despite not having Garrett. If I know for sure Garrett's not going to be there, maybe my score is different. But right now, I'm riding 24-21, a Syracuse victory. They're top 10 after this week. I have to manifest it or it won't happen.
All right. I respect that.
All right. Well, make fun of Owen in the comments. Do whatever you got to do. But that is all we have on Locked On Syracuse today. Thank you for making it your first listen every day. Go get more on the ACC by making Locked On ACC your second listen every day. Host Candace Cooper and the local experts of Locked On take you across the ACC in 30 minutes. Make Locked On ACC your second listen. I'm Matt Bonaparte. He's Owen Valentine. We will see you on Monday after what is hopefully a Syracuse victory.